candidates have emerged from different political parties ahead of the Edo State governorship election. While some have castigated the process of the primaries that produced the candidates across the political divides, others have commended it. And while some have rolled out the drums in the celebration of the emergence of their candidates, others have called for fresh primaries with allegations that the initial exercise was not credible. Well, we now have joining us on Newsday to provide overviews on the governorship primaries in Edo State is the former NNPP spokesman, Abubakar Yusuf. He will be providing insights into the long-standing proposed merger between the NNPP and the Labour Party. Also, the calls on the Supreme Court to ensure justice is served in the Kano State governorship elections. Good afternoon. Good to have you. Welcome back to Newsday.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. So from the Edo primaries, we've seen quite a bit. Can you give us your own assessment of how they were conducted, whether or not it was a successful venture for all the parties that were involved?
Well, let me say from inception that there's a specter taunting Edo political space, and that has always been the specter of godfatherism. You know, it started long ago. Indeed, you can even look at the inception from the era of Aneni, who is now deceased. So the progressives in the state, they came together and decided to form a united front. As a matter of fact, the head of that united front was Pastor Sege Zeamu, which is, he had the Grace Group, which the Grace Group was able to lambast and lampoon, you know, godfatherism. And they succeeded in bringing forth, you know, the head of the former Nigerian Labour Congress, who came roaring like a roaring flame. That's Comrade Oshomole. Yes. You know, he was able to take the wind out of the sail of the then PDP by defeating Professor Osumbo. Not really defeating, but the court bestowed on him the defeat eventually. And ever since, Oshomole, who has always been anti-godfatherism, and now assumed the role of a godfather, you know, and also procured, you know, the now governor, the person of Obaseki, and so on and so forth. So godfatherism has been there for a very long time. And this is their election, so to say. I'm sorry you are even asking me about other parties, but it's good to talk about it because I'm actually from Edo State, and I was one-time president student in the University of Benin. So most of the combatants or actors, they're either my classmates, senior, or my junior. So they are put to rest the ghost of Shomole by the defeat of his candidate. He was sponsoring. There's Denko Idahausa. I have nothing personal against him, but the defeat of Denko has put to rest, has buried this spirit of godfatherism that has been roaring, you know, through the corridors of Edo State. And the other godfathers, I guess, will also meet their doom in no distant future.
You know, but it's not only in the APC that we saw different candidates emerging. We also saw that in the PDP. We saw that in the Labour Party. In fact, I need to ask you, you know, about your own NNPP primaries in Edo State. How many candidates emerged from your primaries?
You know, the leader of NNPP, Dr. Musa Rabi Kwankwaso, is a very disciplined fellow. He has been able to bring up the party in this mold of being disciplined and all that. So we have just one candidate, and that is Pastor Azeke Azeme. You know, you will discover that this is an eloquent testimony to the fact that Rabi Musa Kwankwaso is a very detribalized individual, though a Muslim. Even his running mate is even a bishop. So among the four candidates that were screened, we had the primaries in Benin. Pastor Azeke Azeme emerged. So we are all going to queue behind Pastor Azeke Azeme in the forthcoming elections, despite the shenanigans between APC and PDP. And we are very sure that the pastor of these Omega ministries will defeat the divided big so-called big parties, you know, that have been holding us in the jugular.
So can we discuss this merger supposed between the parties? Can you give us more information as to why that came about, and what are the logistics what would the logistics of that look like?
I think the issue of a merger is actually a misnomer. Okay. You should perhaps call it a working agreement.
Okay.
We're in working agreement with all the parties, both, you know, the big and the small, provided you have the theme. If you have the theme, your ideology as people inspired, people driven, and maybe people executed, Dr. Musa Rabi Kwankwaso will ensure that the NNPP will have a talk with you. Our own constituency, like you know, is actually the people. You know, how to take, you know, all this out of children, the children that were out of school, how to fight poverty, hunger, and disease, what the late Afrobeat will call PhD. And because we believe in the NNPP or his mother, the Konkansia movement, that there is an option to poverty, hunger, and disease. We actually crusade for that alternative. We believe that there's an alternative to this type of terrorism that is plaguing everywhere, especially in the north. We crusade for that alternative. And this type of corruption too, that has really taken on us, and we have been squeezed like a beleaguered nation. We also crusade for that alternative within legal means. If you look at Kano very carefully, we discover that Kano is sitting like you know, an elephant, and is etched in at Jigawa to the right, up there, left Katsina, down Kaduna, Bauchi. Kano is the only state where you don't have this type of terrorism or anarchy, because Dr. Musa Rabi Kwankwaso has been able to weaponize knowledge or education. We discovered that when Sanusi was even taken out of central bank, he found favor with him and encouraged him, and he became the emir till Ganduje came and removed him from office. So Musa Rabi Kwankwaso believe in this philosophy of meritocracy as opposed to mediocrity. So all what it reflects is always credit, democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty. That's why we don't have crisis. That's why anybody that is bringing trouble to NNPP, it's not difficult to isolate him, and we normally take him out.
You know, we're talking about, you know, forming a merger or having a working agreement, yes, the way you put it. I'm just wondering how the average Nigerian politician's mindset works. You know, do they actually think about the people they seek to govern, or is it just about getting power and the perks of office, you know, that they might eventually occupy? Do Nigerian politicians have principles and ideologies guiding them? If they do, how come they find it so easy to cross-carpet and sometimes form what seems to be strange alliances? Can you explain that to us?
You see, because the economy is very recessed, the economy is very acidic, people find it difficult to have conviction or principles based on conviction. And it is only in NNPP that you have this principle based on conviction and ideology. But we are going to drive this so-called conviction, and we are going to relate with those who are related to us. And that's why we are very fervent and we are very profuse when we are selecting our bedfellows. We are not going to subsume or underplay our ideology, which is people-oriented, for a morsel of bread. And we are going around the place conscientizing the people, especially the very poor, you know, the wretched of the earth, that we are alive. But if you're talking of a relationship or working accord, like I said, nobody's ready to leave his identity in NNPP for any other thing. If you are related or you believe in ideology, which is people-based, people-driven, and eventually people executed, we're going to relate with you. And because we believe that it is better to fight within the system than be outside the system, you know.
All right. Well, working agreement aside, or merger, whatever you decide to call it, your party, the NNPP, how do you feel about their chances in Edo State with the gubernatorial elections?
Perfect. Very good. Our chances are very bright in the sense that we do not have these vociferous and shenanigans that has plagued both the PDP and even past that refused to quit the scene, and even the deceased APC. It is only the Labour and perhaps the NNPP that you will see this type of discipline, decency, you know, one-party thing, and we are forward-looking. Whereas the NNPP, whereas the APC and the PDP will perhaps wrestle themselves to the ground. We are going to be flying to Osadebe Avenue, and we are going to hoist a flag which is Amana or the truth in Osadebe Avenue, and nothing more pretentious.
Now, you talked about, the scepter of godfatherism hanging over Edo State.
Yeah.
What would you say is the way, that this scepter or this influence of godfather in Edo State can be reduced? How do we reduce their influence, reduce money politics, imposition of candidates? What would you say is the solution to all those issues?
Well, we are, as a person, not as a party necessarily, because I'm from that state, we are already talking across board. We are already holding bipartisan relationship. We are already identifying people that will take over the mantle of leadership, especially from Edo North, from Oshomole. Oshomole, so let's permit me go Abubakar. It's like, it's like his place is vacant. So let his place become vacant and let no man dwell daring. As for his office, let another take. So we have a lot of people across the board. But if you force me, perhaps I'll be able to name one or two. They are all in all the parties. You have Dan Osiobi, even in PDP. You have Jared Tanebe in APC. You have David Adodebere that left. He's a very prosperous business in America. So we are talking, as a person, not necessarily as a party. As a party, we're also trying to form, relationship with those people that are related to us. And I'll be waiting for, my leaders in Abuja/Kano to tell us the route to follow.
Well, it's good to have you in our studios today, Mr. Barrister Abubakar Yusuf, the former NNPP spokesperson. Thank you so much for joining us here on Newsday.
Thank you. God bless.